How's it going, you guys? So in this video I want to talk about the concept of resistance. So I find this idea of resistance, or the word resistance as it's used in these law of attraction communities, to actually hold profound meaning, and it's something that people need to really think about and reflect on and really try to understand. So you'll hear this concept a lot in communities revolving around the teachings of Abraham Hicks, where she talks about all you need to worry about to get the law of attraction to work for you is removing resistance, because in resistance all things are possible, or whatever. And now if you take this and you ground this concept in reality, you will actually find powerful things happen. This is actually something that was a fundamental underworking and how I was living my life in late 2014, early 2015. And I had lost track of this idea, and I tried grasping desperately to obtain its results without actually embodying this one in particular. But anyway, let's talk about it. So, fundamentally, so here's a good example of how it plays out. So let's say you have a job that you really hate, and every day you go to that job and you just dread it, and you're struggling to pay the bills and all this stuff. You've got a lot of resistance in your life at that point. You should probably find a job that does not create resistance. The resistance is all the factors involved that are making you dread it. Like you've got this, it's like this, like pushing you away type of feeling. There's a problem in your life that is causing you great stress, and you need to deal with it. And because if you think about it, if you just remove the hatred for the job and the stress and the anxiety, if you remove the people that are causing it and the factors involved that are making you hate it, you wouldn't hate it anymore, would you? And it would be a lot more pleasant. You could do that by getting a better job that pays within your price range that you can actually enjoy. You'd be more motivated to go to that job. You would feel better about yourself and about your life, and you wouldn't really have this big repelling type of feeling revolving around it because you've gotten rid of the resistance. Or you could change your approach to it or your mindset towards it, and try to align your thoughts more conducively with that job, so that you don't really feel as resistant to it anymore. Provided that's always the harder solution, but sometimes you must make that happen nonetheless. Okay. Now here's another example. Let's say somebody lost their job and now they're jobless. Okay, and it's like really daunting. The idea of, oh shit, I need a new job, all this financial stress. What do a lot of people do to solve that? They'll smoke some weed, they'll play video games, and they won't go seeking a job, which is not a good idea. But as long as they do that, that resistance is still there. The path of least resistance is not trying to feel good in the moment, do drugs, get drunk, drink alcohol, whatever, avoid your problems. That's actually the path of most resistance. The path of least resistance is go and get that new job, take care of business, and you'll at least feel a little bit better. Okay? So, clearly this is not the same thing as just do what feels good and everything will be better. And this is not the same thing as trying to pretend that everything is happy and whatnot. It's not the positive thinking mumbo jumbo, which I don't think it's mumbo jumbo, but it's not think happy thoughts and happy things will happen. Trying to pretend you're happy even when you're not. That actually causes a lot of resistance. Okay? Because you're putting a lot of effort and will into a reality that is just very challenging to impose on yourself. It would be a lot easier just to accept the fact that something in your life sucks. Something in your life is causing a lot of stress, and you need to take steps to actually remove that stress somehow. Okay, again, whether that's changing the situation, or changing the way you think about the situation. You've got to remove the resistance in order to move forward. So this is actually a fundamental concept in Chinese medicine. It's called removing stagnation, or getting the energy moving by removing blockages, okay, and the meridians or whatever. Now, of course, it sounds woo-woo on the surface, but when you start to really dissect it and think about it, and you kind of like put it into practice for what it is, which is a conceptual way of viewing these things, you'll find that a lot of times it tends to be a beneficial concept. So another way that this can manifest is, so I actually just made like an hour-long video, kind of just opening up and talking about all of the things that have been kind of like all the resistance in my life lately. A lot of it, which has been kind of blocking me from making videos on a regular basis and really enjoying the process and making the type of videos that I enjoy. Okay. And many other things, but here it is. So check this out. So here's a blockage that I've been going through. Some resistance I've been going through. So I started getting a lot of subscribers a couple years ago. And then all of a sudden I have these standards I place upon myself for every video that I record, where I'm like, I need to look good, I got to be presentable. I got to have the perfect video where the information is presented perfectly and I'm making perfect sense. And then I have to have the perfect title in the video so that I don't lose subscribers, and so that I can reach the vast majority of the highest majority of people, and so people get a good impression of me. And so that's good and all, that you actually want to record good content and this and that, but that's setting obstacles for yourself that are making it harder for you to actually create videos and create them with a flowing and free energy. And so for me, I recognize this actually as kind of like for one, it's a limiting belief. I don't need to do all that to be successful. And for two, it's actually harming me. It's preventing me from working to my fullest. So so the resistance there is, this belief that, I need a specific name on my YouTube channel, or if I record a video and it lasts 20 minutes, then I've lost everyone's attention span. So I should just delete it and try to make the video again, but make it shorter. And it's like all of that resistance. And then of course there's all these other beliefs I might have about people, like, whatever. A lot of limiting beliefs that I had about, people that watch YouTube and health science and all this stuff can be preventing me from manifesting what I want with YouTube, or at the very least just enjoying the process and getting things done. It's all this resistance. It's this energy that you feel, a rigidity, like, oh shit, like, you've got all these these stipulations that you must adhere to, and you're like walking on eggshells, trying to fit into a box to try to create this thing that requires a more artistic, free-flowing, and open type of approach, which is what I originally started with on YouTube to begin with. I have a YouTube subscriber base and all they care about is nutritional supplements, which is not true. So if I make a video talking about the law of attraction, then I'm going to lose subscribers, and I'm a woo-woo guy. It's not science-based, I don't have scientific studies to back this up. So if I start talking about it, maybe some of my personal training clients, are subscribed to me, and they're gonna hear this and think I'm crazy. Fuck. So that, or I can't cuss, right? I can't have fun. I gotta take myself so seriously, Fuck. So all of that is actually resistance. All of those things, as sarcastic as I'm being in here, it's all resistance. That's what resistance is. It's like all this rigid energy, these rigid beliefs, and these things that are like, it's like making me resist something. Like, shit, fuck, you know. And so, again, it's like not necessarily a specific thing. It's not a specific principle. Resistance doesn't mean one specific thing. Resistance is kind of like a more general principle that can describe a lot of different things. But if you understand the basic premise that I'm talking about here, the rigidity, that repelling feeling, it's like an obstacle in the way. It's like this problem that's been existing in the background for a long time. And I felt these things for a long time, the resistance of the YouTube video thing. Over time, eventually you got to stop and be like, dude, like, what is that feeling in the background, or what's causing it, or whatever. So another one, again, it's kind of similar to the positive thinking one, but let's say you're in a relationship with somebody and you really, really love them, but there's like a dating coach that told you got to pretend like you don't love them, which is so dumb, actually. You got to act like you're the prize. You are the prize. And that's like, again, like, to me, that's so cringy hearing that. You are the prize. You got to act like you're like better than them or something. That is so fucking dumb. And it's a form of manipulation. Not to say that, it's whatever. If it works for you, then I guess. But it's not healthy in the long term. But that is resistance. Because then, like, you have this resistance towards being yourself, You might not enjoy yourself anymore because you're putting on this persona. Now, every time you hang out with them, you're like, you want to talk to them about, astrology or something. You're like, nope, can't do that. Only simps talk about astrology. It's like that completely kills the possibility of creating a connection with somebody, because you're closed off at that point, because you're trying to, like, you're stifled is what they call it. You're like, I am the prize. I am science-based. Fuck astrology. And then they'll start talking about astrology and you'll be like, yeah, fuck that. That's not science-based. It doesn't really get you anywhere. And it's rigidity, it's resistance. You're like resisting the topics that come up. Or someone might come up to you and they might start talking about political science or something, or I don't know, whatever. They might start talking about something that you labeled negative. You labeled it negative. You labeled it bad. And this is common law of attraction. You're like, no, I can't hear it. Nope. You just try to pretend like it doesn't exist. You try to change the subject. And that's fine and everything. But I don't think that that's the way to handle it. Because it'll always be there. But instead, it's not so much the thoughts that are negative, but it's the feelings. And generally, negative feelings exist because of resistance. And so someone starts talking to me about, like, for example, someone might have weight loss goals. And like, I want to lose a bunch of weight. And then I tell them, that freaking candy that you eat every day, you should probably remove that from your diet because sugar does this and does that. And they're like, no, I don't want to hear about the sugar. They're like, nope, I'll just get a supplement. Or it's like, some people get offended if you start to talking about something because they don't want to hear it. And it's like, even if you don't intend on like changing your diet or whatever, you can just remove the negative feeling by like listening to what they have to say and being okay with it. Like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. Sugar is going to cause fat gain and probably not a good idea to include it in my diet. Whatever. Maybe it's not good for me. Maybe I can include it in my diet and still lose weight through, caloric restriction, through other ways or something. But, people, they'll be like, no, it's like resistant. And you hear this a lot in like debates, no matter what it's about. Let's maybe think about like debates with like Vegan Gains or hate about meat and stuff. His earlier debates were terrible because he had all this resistance built up, which probably explains a lot of his problems. And I got lots of good stuff to talk about on that and on end. People be trying to debate him and he'll just talk over them and he'll not listen to what they have to say. And it's like, like all this resistance. And it's pretty hard to watch unless you're also a militant vegan. But here's another one. So you're super attached to an idea of healthy eating, right? So back when I was vegan, I used to think meat was horrible for you, and like all these people that eat meat are disgusting and they have meat rotting in their intestine and all that stupid crap. And then I started to have health problems where I would see undigested plant foods in the toilet. And, some people might hear that and think that's disgusting. And then they're resisting my information now. And so they don't actually get the point or the value. Boom, resistance causing you the opposite of what you want to manifest, right? But anyway, I'd be like, oh, seeing the plant foods in the toilet. I'm like, oh no, there's no way. Black rice and purple rice and beans and nuts and seeds, these are like the healthiest foods on earth. At least that's what Michael Greger said. That's what, I read in these books and I hear in the news all the time, and meat's bad for me. And it's like, I'm so resistant to the meat and resistant to the reality that I'm seeing. And I'm like attached to veganism as being super healthy and these foods as being super healthy. It's that the resistance there is like removing those foods from my diet might help me. And eating more meat as the main source of my calories might help me. But people are like, no, raw veganism is the way to go. And they're eating like nothing but like raw kale juice or something like that, and bananas or something, 30 bananas a day, and then they wonder why their triglycerides are through the roof. They are diabetic, and all their muscle mass goes away and their bones start to melt, and then the resistance is even stronger, and they're like, no, I'm just detoxing for like decades and I'm dying, but I'm detoxing to the other world. That's resistance, guys. So that is resistance. There was someone that I was working with at one point in time who was severely anemic, and that person could not lift light weights or hardly do a workout, hardly even walk around at all. Supposedly this person was a medical professional, and they were anemic. And I said, well, the reason why you're out of breath and all this stuff is because you're anemic, and like you keep telling me you're anemic. And they're vegan. They happen to be vegan. They're super skinny. And I'm like, you should probably at the very least like eat some cooked beans with like an iron supplement. And like, no, like I'm not going to take the isolated iron supplement because it's an isolated chemical. Big pharma, blah, blah, blah. Even though they were like a nurse working for Big Pharma, but whatever. The point, and they weren't working directly for Big Pharma, but the point here is their health was deteriorating, and if they took the iron supplement, if they ate red meat and they took an iron supplement and a full spectrum B vitamin complex and maybe a little bit of liver, if they just ate liver and meat, even though they were like vegan and everything, their anemia would go away, they would feel light years better, and they'd just be better off. But they're resisting the solution because they're vegan and meat's bad, and so it's like, okay, then cooked beans have some iron in it, but it also has phytic acid that will possibly prevent the absorption of the iron supplement. Take a freaking iron supplement so you don't die. And they're like, no, like Big Pharma, and it's bad for me if I take an iron supplement. And they're supplementing with, I think it was like marshmallow root or sarsaparilla, because it's like an herb that has trace amounts of like iron in it. And it's in capsule form. It's like you're not going to get enough iron, and you're not going to absorb it most likely. You'd be better off. You'd feel better in a couple days if you just take an iron supplement. But no, they're vegan, and they got to take an all natural herb, that's actually ground up and dried up, and you don't even know if it's actually in there and whatever. Because of Big Pharma and all these weird ideas they have that they're attached to, it's the resistance. That's resistance. And they're suffering because of it. So yeah, I realize this now. And beyond that, can't help but notice 9 out of 10 people, well, let's say more like, 6 out of 10 people that might come for personal training, for example, at the gym. They say they want a certain goal, but they are resistant to all of the suggestions you give them. They may not outright tell you that right there, but you'll work with them for months, and they might be paying hundreds of dollars for training every single month, and they're not eating the diet you tell them to do. They're not doing the workouts in their spare time you tell them to do. They're not logging the workouts. And it's like you might tell them and remind them over and over again, and they may not have any excuses at all. They may not speak resistantly to these ideas, but they just don't do them. It's like, no duh, you're not going to get the body that you want if you don't do these things, the very solution that's going to get you there. And so this is actually all resistance, you know. And another thing, like you're talking to, you know, trying to develop a relationship with someone and you realize that they are resistant to certain behaviors you might have or certain things you say. So you as an individual, if you really want to pursue positive relationship with this person, have got to go with the resistance. So if they're like resisting a topic like politics or nutrition or something, and this is something that's really hard if you really care about it and you're emotionally invested in the subject, if they're resistant, like, no, I don't want to hear it, like, just let it, just go with the resistance. It's okay. And if they're suffering, like, that's their own thing because they're resisting it. But you don't have to resist it anymore. Don't resist their resistance, okay? You'll notice when you start to put this principle into play, most of the time, depending on what's going on here, you will see a lot better results in the people you talk to because you're letting go of the resistance, okay? So, and, you know, again, this is a very nuanced topic, but and I'm just now revisiting it. But leave your question, comments down below, okay? It's okay to, you know, be human within reason, let go of the resistance, and, you know, remember, like, clinging on so dearly and rigidly to positive thinking. Oh God, I gotta be positive. I can't, like, allow myself to admit that I feel like mentally unstable right now. That's resistance, my guy. Okay. And maybe is actually the opposite of what you need to do for the law of attraction sometimes. Leave a question, comments down below, and I'll talk to y'all next time.